If you say the words home economics out loud, you probably picture a classroom that got cut from your school decades ago. You may not have even taken home economics. I didn't. But you might picture a classroom full of sewing machines, or maybe a kitchen setup where girls would learn how to cook casseroles, and your teacher may have graded you on how straight your seams were. And I clearly, right at the start of this, I want to emphasize the fact that I truly believe that all of those skills are good things. It's not a small thing to know how to do all of those things. And in fact, I definitely believe that the work that you do in your home day in and day out is incredibly important, and that the work you do is so much more than just checking off a to-do list. Okay, so knowing how to cook, how to sew, and how to care for your home well, that's not a small thing. That's real, it's valuable knowledge, and I'm not here to talk down to it. I absolutely love homemaking. But what if I told you that's only the surface of what the phrase actually means? What if home economics was never meant to stop at just recipes and stitches? And what if it was always pointing to something much deeper, and we just stopped teaching that part? I really truly believe this is a thing, because it wasn't always just about sewing and recipes. The word economics comes from the Greek word oikonomos, I think that's how you say it, which is a compound word of okos, meaning household, and nomos, which means law or management. So it literally means the management of a household. That's not a modern invention. It's pretty ancient. And it's the same word Paul used in the book of Titus, chapter 2, when he said that the older women should train the younger women to be, among other things, keepers at home. Keepers at home. So let's kind of unpack that for a minute. We think about keepers at home today, and I mean, I love keeping house, so this is not a denigration of what, the standard society or culture likes to think of when they think of keepers at home. However, the word keepers at home means so much more than society gives it credit for. And that's a real problem. I think that so often, there's like two camps. You have women who love homemaking, and then you have women who think that being a homemaker, or being a full-time homemaker rather, means that you are oppressed. And I want to change the narrative around the idea that being a homemaker is somehow less valuable than working outside the home. And let me just say this too. If you do work outside the home, you can also be a homemaker. If you have a house, you are technically a homemaker. So this is really not about whether or not you're a full-time homemaker or a full-time employee outside the home, and just, you're at home in the evenings, or however your schedule works. Like, it has nothing to do with that. Being a keeper at home means that you are managing your home well. So I hope I make that clear. Like, I don't want there to be a divide. I think that God calls us women to different things, and I am not going to ever tell someone that what they feel like they need to do is wrong. It's not my place. It's between you and God. Whether or not you feel like working outside the home is the right choice for your family, that's up to you, your husband, and God. Okay, so having said that, going back to Titus 2, where Paul tells us that women should be keepers at home. He was describing a woman who manages. He was talking about a woman who runs the household economy with skill and intention and real authority in her own home over what happens inside her own home. She's not just a caretaker, she's a steward, she's a manager, an economist, and in the oldest and truest sense of the word, she is a home economist. So here's the reframe I really want to plant in you today. Right at the start of this course, your home is not only a place you keep clean and a family you feed, although those things are beautiful and they're important too. And that work truly does deserve honor on its own. But underneath it and beyond it, it's also an economy, a living, breathing system of resources flowing in and out every single day. Money flows in and money flows out. Time flows in, time flows out. Food, energy, skill, attention, all of it constantly is flowing in and out. And it requires someone to manage the whole system, or things just kind of go into chaos. And as a homemaker, that someone is you. You have been the economist of your household this entire time. You just never had the word for it because the word got taken away from you. It got shrunk down to mean something that it didn't necessarily mean. And then it was handed back to you smaller than what it actually meant. So let's make this concrete, because I don't want this to stay just a nice idea. I want you to actually see it. I want you to feel it. I want you to think about what you already manage right now, today, without a title and without a paycheck. You decide how far the grocery budget has to stretch. You decide how much you can spend each week on your grocery budget, week after week, even when the number on the receipt doesn't match the number you wish it would. You're still managing it. You decide what happens to the hours between 6 a.m. and the moment everyone finally falls asleep at night. You decide how much goes into the feeding of the people, how much goes into teaching them, how much goes into just being present with them, and how much gets swallowed by things that don't actually matter. You decide almost daily what gets fixed and what gets replaced. The toy with the broken wheel, the shirt with the missing buttons, the relationship in the family that's gotten a little strained and needs tending before it breaks. You decide, you're making all of those decisions. You decide how the family's energy gets spent and how it gets restored, when to push through and when to rest, when to say yes to something and when to protect the calendar instead. And you decide something bigger too. You decide whether your family's resources are managed with a plan or just spent as they come, whether there's a budget or just a hope that it works out. You decide whether saving toward the future happens on purpose or if only there's something left over, and whether a purchase is something you actually needed or just something the culture around you said you want. None of that has anything to do with how much is in your bank account. A woman managing very little can do this with intention, and a woman who manages a great deal can also do it carelessly. The skill is the same skill no matter the number attached to it, and that's something I want you to hear me say. None of this is just keeping house. That is economic management, resource management in real time with real consequences, done mostly invisibly and almost never acknowledged as the skilled work it actually is. Your grandmother, if she was anything like most women of her generation, never once said the word budget out loud. She didn't need to. She ran a budget at home, in her head, in her hands, in the way that she knew exactly what the garden would produce, how much it would save her by August. She knew exactly what the pantry needed before the first hard freeze. She was an economist. Nobody called her that, but that's really what she was. So that's what you are too, and I want you to understand that. All I want you to do today is start calling it what it actually is. It's not just chores. It's not just keeping the house. What you're doing is management, it's stewardship, it's economics in the real and original weighty sense of that word. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that changes everything.